So that's my only negative. It's my only negative. Y'all had too much fun with this. Are y'all okay with this? I'm sure y'all all, because I've only heard positives when hearing about this movie. So what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Hope Views. Thank you for clicking that thumbnail. My name is Corey, and today we're talking about the one movie that I knew I had to watch before 2022 ended, and that was RRR. I've heard so much about this movie online and just seeing different smaller YouTube channels review this movie, get tons of views, and just rant and rave about how good of an action film this is. I saw it on Netflix and I said, I'm gonna watch that. And days turned into weeks, turned into months, turned into, hey man, the year's about to end and I wanna make sure that this is not one that I'm missing, because every now and then I do look at a foreign film and, really take a liking to it. So I wanted to give this movie a chance, and I watched it. I really enjoyed it, but I'm left in a weird space. So let's get to it when it comes to talking about the movie, full spoilers and everything. So on my scale, I give this movie a 7.6 out of 10. Check the description to see the numbers and how they break down. But just talking about the movie, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, time after time, this movie tops how ridiculous it can be. Now, there may be some ignorance on my part, because I just don't understand why they would choose to tackle the subjects that they tackle with this movie in the way that they tackle them. And I'm very much encouraging people, if you're from that community and you have knowledge, please enlighten me in the comment section. I like to engage and I like to talk. I don't get why they chose to go so far over the top. Now, was it fun to watch? Hell yes. It was very fun to watch, but I didn't get it. The action, just within the first 30 minutes, I found myself like blown away at how well this was executed. To say, this is not Hollywood. This is not the standard, like we're gonna do all the big things with the green screen and the best stuntmen in the world and all this stuff. This is a Hindi movie. And I'm like, it's done so well. And I watched it, original language. I didn't try to do all the different little dialogue switches and all that. I just watched it subtitled, read, let's go. And the thing about it to me that really stood out was that anything that's lost in translation in culture is made up in execution. Like, the acting was superb. The crispness of the action sequences, all the stunt work, all that stuff, and the way that the film was captured, all of it was so crystal clear. The visuals was the top-notch stuff. But I found myself like wondering, why do it this way? And I have a good example. There's a dancing scene in the movie. This dancing scene is the most nonsense that I've ever seen. It's basically like a music video that they're gonna do right here in the movie. And they did it again toward the end, actually 2 more times towards the end. But it's like, why do this here and now? And why do it like this? And the reason why I question it is because immediately, if you have any kind of sense about colonization and about Europeans and the way that they conducted themselves during colonization, they always thought of themselves as superior to the culture that they were taking over. So when it came to them interacting with Africans, with Native Americans, with the people of India, it's like, yo, what? Like, y'all spitting in the face of their culture, and you think everything that you have is superior. And these guys are going to show you that, their style of dance, their style of music, their style of party is just as good and way more entertaining, if we're being honest. But it's like, why, instead of like, why do it like that? My greater thought is like this when I think about the movie. Several times throughout the movie, they are doing what they're doing to make a point. Like, the story has several different moments where they want to make a point and talk about something that's big culturally that pretty much anybody who has any kind of sense can understand. Instead of driving your point home like a normal film would, you have your point, which is your nail, and you have a hammer, you put it and you hammer it in. No, they choose nail in like cartoon sledgehammer, just the biggest hammer possible. And we're gonna mangle this nail into the wall. It's like, why are you doing it? Why are you being so forceful when making your point? When I talk about the cultural stuff though, I really like this movie because it's tackling things that I'm just recently kind of learning the intricacies of, right? So when I think about myself, I'm African American, I know my own history. We see slavery being depicted in a lot of American films, and it's always something that's met with such reverence. The only movie that I can think of that is close to this one when it's levels of over the topness, and it's still nowhere near it, would be like Django Unchained. Is the only thing I can think of that tackles a really serious cultural issue, and they do some over the top stuff in it. You know, you think of Jamie Foxx whipping the overseer, you think of that house blowing up, you think of the whole character of Mr. Candy, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Sam Jack's character, that slave who was like loving his master. Like, it's crazy that how far they went with those characters, but you know, it's a sensitive topic and they made it all work. Learning about that area's history is something that's relatively new to me, how deep and detailed it is. And hearing about the British colonizing India here, that is not a subject that I thought they would have met with such comical action. And I'm not criticizing the action, it's awesome. It was crazy to see a man sitting on top of another man's shoulders with two old school rifles shooting people. Like, that's crazy. It's crazy that y'all made it all work, and y'all physics is just totally non-existent. And it's great that y'all choosing to go over the top with this. But I'm like, a part of me just kept thinking, would this be acceptable in my culture? Like, if one of a black filmmaker and black stars took an over-the-top view of like a slave revolt and just made it insanely action-filled, I just don't see it working. I don't know how the community, because you know, I'm tapped into my community and I hear all the sides and everybody's opinions, and I just always wonder, like, man, I don't know how we would take to something like that. The only other cultural thing outside of me understanding how that community feels about that topic and then this approach to that topic, it would be the Second Amendment. Like, it's weird that it's present, but you see Ram's backstory towards the end of the film, or at least in the third act of the film, you see all his backstory, and it's like they wanted weapons, and then you see the damage that can be done with one rifle, which is actually pretty close to accurate, although overblown because everything in the movie is overblown. But you see that present there, and my thought was, this is Second Amendment stuff. If anybody watches this that is not pro Second Amendment, you watch this and you're like, maybe we need a little something here, man. That's one of the takeaways I took from that scene and that little section of the movie. One last cultural thing that really stood out to me is the fact that the emotional friendship that these two men shared, it shines a huge light to me on how masculinity is not viewed the same in other cultures at all. And I've known this because I'm a Bible reader, you know what I'm saying? I believe in Jesus and all that. And they talk about Jonathan and David and this intense friendship they had. And people, modern day people, look at that and it's like, oh, them boys was gay. And it's like, look at this movie. Two men both had female companions that they were pursuing. And it's like, masculinity in the United States is very, I don't want to use the word toxic, but it's not viewed the same here as it is probably in other parts of the world. And if you know the Bible, you know that those characters come from that part of the world. So that's, that was on full display there as well. And when talking about the movie, positives aside, there's only one negative that I can actually think of in my mind that's like a true, like, kind of a weird thing, makes me feel weird about my feelings toward the movie, and it's the fact that they had so much fun. Like, I don't think any part of this movie was meant to be like a downer, besides the cultural stuff that they put on full display, like the way that the British would manhandle these grown men, and these men would subject themselves to that and take that for the sake of their families and everything else. Like, that's the real serious stuff. But the fact that they show these two heroes doing the wildest stuff, doing things that don't make sense, like shooting arrows with grenades on them, and like swinging motorcycles, just a regular man. I'm holding a motorcycle, just hitting people with it, throwing it around. Like, I feel like this is too much fun to be having when we're talking about like a child being abducted by the British, things that I'm sure could have happened. I feel like we're having too much fun showing the toppling of an empire that really existed in real life and really needed to be toppled in such a fashion in real life. So that's my only negative. It's my only negative. Y'all had too much fun with this. Are y'all okay with this? I'm sure I'm sure y'all all, because I've only heard positives when hearing about this movie. So let me know what y'all think about my thoughts. I kind of rambled, but I thought the movie was very fun, maybe too much fun. But that's the only negative that I have. I thought it was good. 3 hours is a hell of a movie, though. It's a hell of a movie. You could have made 2, but I understand why they want to tell that whole story here. Take it, and then they're done. I don't see any sequels coming from that. Like they told the whole story in one big shot. So I'm good with it. Pace wise. But again, share your thoughts. Enjoy yourself. Guard your heart. Go watch something good. I gotta stop eating right before I come shoot.